who like decides when we're good enough? Like, who are we giving that? Like,
nobody.
That person who, you know, they might not even exist, or it might be like 10 different people who are also doing the top of their field things, all in different areas. Or maybe it's this invisible person who we've kind of put up in this pedestal because we have this flattering opinion of them because we only ever see them through social media. It's really weird because when we actually think, okay, who am I actually allowing to validate me and my actions and who I am as a person? It's quite difficult to come down to like an actual person in the sense, I think, especially in the online world. I think previously people would have, you know, maybe from like their parents, or maybe, you know, it would have been that kind of insular side. But now we're open to so many people who don't even know us or who live on the complete other side of the world, that we've actually outsourced this validation to a way that it's never, ever, we're never going to get it. Like, we're never going to meet all people who we've put up in this pedestal, which might not even be real, because as you say, it's a highlight reel. So it's kind of catch-22. We're never going to win situation unless we meet it head on and actually say, hold on, maybe I actually can validate my own success and my own like self. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, but
do you know what?
Yeah, go on.
Oh, no, go on.
No, you go, please.
You're really speaking to this concept that we have on the podcast that I feel like, when were you thinking this as well? Because I feel like it's just such a...
Well, I saw your little giggle on your face, but I thought, where's she
I
off
don't
to?
know she'll be thinking about it. Okay, maybe you weren't. So this is something my mum says, like it's her kind of phrase that she has quite a few little phrases, but we've just sort of used it on the podcast quite a bit. But she always talks about this concept of the imagined audience, which is like kind of when you're doing something, who are you really doing it for? And actually, if you really boil it down, often when you're posting something or doing something public, you will have this idea of like who your imagined audience, who you sort of are posting that for, who you are doing that for. And often, if you boil it right down, it's like someone from school, someone that you don't know anymore, a teacher, a kind of even like your friend's parents. Like, it will be someone so fucking irrelevant, a crush that you had 10 years ago, someone that literally is completely irrelevant. But there is often this sense of like who you are trying to get validation for, actually, when you sort of call them by name and they don't become this imagined figure, this like mystical sort of ether figure of just like the collective, when you get the person who it is that you're truly doing that to impress or that for, it's like, God, I don't give two, can I swear on this? Facts. They think about me. So what is that about?
Yeah, what is that about?
Yeah.
I agree with you. And also, like, in that kind of sense, when it is really abstract, there's always going to be someone. It's like you said, it is never ending. So it's like, just kind of find the loophole that allows you to stop thinking about everybody else. I personally find it impossible. So let me know, anyone, if you've got any tips on that. But I think it's like a lifelong thing, to be honest.
It's really hard because there's the rational self and then there's the irrational self. And of course, the irrational self will feed into that egotistical imagined audience. You know, who's looking at that, and what do people think about, you know, how many likes my Instagram photo got, or how many like what shoes I'm wearing, or all of these things, which actually, like, we in ourselves wouldn't notice someone else. And everyone is kind of centered in on that outward perception so much that we actually don't really notice the other people who are doing the thing, because everyone is kind of looking inwards. So it's that weird kind of it doesn't really exist. It's that imagined audience. I think imagined is a really interesting word to use, because it just doesn't really exist, but it lives so much. And I think a lot of it is the confidence thing as well, of actually putting yourself out there. And I know for me, like, you know, I initially would be a bit more, I'm just going to speak to all of these amazing people, but I'm not going to put anything in. I'm just going to ask them questions. But then I'm like, well, what's the value then for me? Like, what am I giving? Do you know, I want to be able to learn more. And I think a lot of it is you learn by like externally processing. Certainly I'm an external processor. And I think that's actually quite helpful, because it does gain confidence. And then it means that you can use that in everyday life. You can literally speak to anybody, you know, because you have that confidence in who you are, the authentic self. You know what your yes is, you know what your no is, you know kind of where you're going. But I think that's all very easy to say when the rational self is speaking. But the irrational self can just swoop in before you even know it. And then you kind of have this, oh my goodness, I'm not good enough. These people think I'm silly, but again, who are you actually talking about?
Yeah.
And it just actually like hits you like a big existential crisis all at once.
Yeah.
Which is quite overwhelming.
Yeah.
Very.
I always say as well, like, there can be such a kind of discrepancy between what you think and what you feel. Like, sometimes you might know something, like in like you say, in your rational mind, you can understand that, like, you know, this doesn't necessarily mean that I am this or X, Y, and Z. But what you feel in the moment might not necessarily be like from a logical place, but also validate it and be like, it's okay that I'm feeling this way though, and I understand where that's coming from. But also I know that might, you know, there can just be such a gap, I think. And I always feel like I get lost sometimes in like, oh, why am I so upset about this, and this, when I know it's that, or like, I know that shouldn't affect me. And it's like, but you are human and it's fine. And you can know these things and also go through human emotions